Happy Monday. Really grateful to be spending time with you today. Great conversations around this book, and would encourage you to keep on reading along with us. The four of us were asked to read and reflect and present on the issue of faculty and staff engagement in the process of redesign. And it was a really intriguing chapter when we look at the issue of resource allocation. The vast majority of our fiscal resources are dedicated toward our workforce, faculty and staff. So in many ways, it heightened the importance of addressing this topic in particular. My name is Manny Morzano. I'm the Dean of Instruction, and I'm honored to be joined by fellow colleagues here. We will present together, and I will ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves to you, and then we will jump into our presentation, starting with Kate on our far left, your far right.
Hi, I'm Kate Pluto. I teach English, and I'm faculty chair of the Accreditation Institutional Quality.
I'm Edie Nelson. I'm a classified employee. I work in admissions.
And I'm Mark Stoller. I'm the Communication Department Chair and Academic Senate Executive Board Member, Faculty Co-Chair of Enrollment Management Committee.
Okay, why don't we start with your presentation? Oh, we're starting with that?
No, we're starting with Mark.
We're starting with Mark.
Adjunct faculty engagement.
I think I volunteered to focus on roles of adjunct faculty and staff. The Communication Department has 7 full-time faculty members, about 25 adjunct members. First of all, I love this book, not just for the possibility of creating structured pathways for students, but just the transformative approach it takes to collaboration. I think it can be applied to many different issues on campus than just structured pathways, so I'm a fan of the book for that reason. As a department chair dealing with 7 full-time members, we have once a month department meetings, and we try to have a collaborative department. Of course, communication faculty, they're also speech and debate coaches, so we're used to debating things and arguing about what policies we should implement. But when you have 25 adjunct faculty members, you start to realize how important it is to somehow engage adjuncts in the decision-making process. And I think we're fortunate in the communication department. I would say of the 25 adjuncts we have, 7 or 8 are actively involved on campus in service opportunities besides just teaching their classes. But before I became a faculty member here about 20 years ago, I spent 6.5 years as a freeway flyer. I got my degree from UC Berkeley, MA, PhD, and then moved to the Fresno area. And I taught at 3 different community colleges, COS, Reedley College, and a lot of the outlying communities. A lot of adjuncts, they're spending lots of hours on the road. I knew one adjunct that was teaching 9 different classes at 3 different institutions. And that's probably the extreme, but there are several. And I'd say 25% of our adjuncts are not in the area. They have to travel up from Los Angeles. And so as a department chair, I'm trying to get a schedule that will work for them. So when you think about transforming the campus through collaborative participation and decision making, what do you do with that large percentage of faculty that are adjunct and have many other duties and responsibilities? Let me ask the other panelists, what do you think the percentage of adjuncts is campus-wide? Is it similar to my department where almost 60% of our classes are taught by adjuncts?
Well, in English, it's usually a balance. Around 50% of the sections are taught by adjunct faculty, but I don't know the numbers right now, how many we have. I don't know.
The institutional average is about that, but there's fluctuation depending on discipline.
And one of the biggest problems for getting adjuncts involved in collaboration and decision making is just the time commitment. When you have folks that are traveling from institution to institution and don't get paid many hours for on-campus service opportunities, how do you get them in the loop? Because I think to make big changes in an institution, you really do need a majority of people buying into the decision-making process. The section I'm looking at is page 168. The end of the chapter says roles of adjunct faculty and staff. Do you think there's an overlap between the amount of involvement that adjunct faculty can get in campus and classified staff? I often hear from classified staff that they would love to get more involved, but they've got full-time jobs that need their attention.
That's more of what I heard. I have too much work, no time out of the office, and can't.
So that's getting the ball rolling a bit, maybe.
All right. Thank you for that. And it seems to me as if there's so much that can be said about involving our employees who do not work on a full-time basis, who we don't have the privilege of seeing on an ongoing or on a frequent basis, who might be here in the evenings after the office is closed to teach an evening class. So of course that heightens the need for us to keep them engaged in the ongoing work that we're doing, especially since most of our classified and our faculty are frontline staff and are pivotal for student success as far as identifying concerns, referring them to appropriate resources.
That's true.
Is that a hint?
I have Manny's plan for the day. I thought it was me.
Hi, I'm Edie Nelson. I work in admissions and records. I'm a classified staff. I've worked there about 18 years, first 15 of which I stayed in my desk and did not venture out. It wasn't until the past few years that I was convinced to join college council. That's because the CSEA sent out an email 3 times saying we need reps for several different committees. By the 3rd time, I decided I might stick one foot in and see. First few meetings, I thought I had made a big mistake because everything was alphabet soup. I had no idea of what they were talking about. I would go back to my desk and quickly try and look on the internet to find out what is an AIOU, whatever, which they promptly changed after I remembered them. So once I got the hang of it, I did find it interesting. Getting there was, of course, all right, what days can I be out of the office where it's not going to impact the office? Getting my boss's approval to be out of the office during those hours and who's going to cover for you. So I did manage to do it. I talked to several classified people that I know or went out on campus, trying to ask them, why don't you participate more? Most of the answer is the same. I have too much work to do, there's no one to cover for me. And another thing that I would hear is, they're not going to listen to my opinions anyway. I'm not sure how to get them out volunteering. I know that being on this panel was not probably my first choice. This is not my comfort zone. Kate was laughing at me when she saw me walk in.
It was a nervous wreck.
And the only
not my
reason
comfort zone either.
up here is because Hutchinson kind of nudged me in this direction by putting my name on a list. So
Yep.
that's how I ended up here. The only way you're going to get classified, I think, is to join, is to have management directors, somebody who knows them, knows their strong points, weaknesses, and push them gently out to, you're interested in this, why don't you go join this committee or this work plan, this group, or you've asked about this, go out and find out more. Or because of the big push for student success, maybe try and convince them to take just 1 or 2 students as mentorees. Some of us have worked here a long time. We have a good idea of what the in and outs are. That would get us involved more on a student basis rather than office basis where we're busy typing up reports or backing up other important people. That's my ideas.
Okay, so my section that I focus on is cross-functional teams. And I agree with Edie, there can be a gulf between where we are and where this book recommends. But you know what, we have some examples. You're looking at a cross-functional team right now. We are from classified staff, faculty, from 2 different departments, and administration. We bring diverse perspectives. And that's the goal of a cross-functional team. And one reason I think we could scale them up, because that's one of the questions Manny gave me for later, is that cross-functional teams aren't like standing committees where you commit to, say, a year, 2 years, or seemingly the rest of your life as an expert on a committee. But rather they have a focus and a charter, and then they're done. So they're working on something and then they're done. The advantage of a cross-functional team is the difference in perspectives. Another cross-functional team we had that spent all of last year together worked on this, the strategic focus document, the strategic directions document. I shouldn't have gotten that wrong, should I? That had classified, faculty, and administration on it. So you have those different functions, but then also we had academic affairs, we had student affairs, we had administrative services. So we had that kind of cross-functional grouping on that committee. They're tricky, they can be tricky. The authors have some criteria for having these work successfully. You have to build relational trust across all departments and divisions. And when they say divisions, they don't mean, you know how we used to have divisions here instead of departments? They don't mean that kind of division. It's more like management, administrative services. It's like our program review classifications. Relational trust. That's not the kind of trust you develop with really tight friends that you've worked with for years and you have that kind of trust. Neither is it the superficial or verging on, well, I trust you as far as I can throw you kind of trust. Relational trust relies on several things, according to the authors. The expectation and the seeing of professional competence, and personal integrity, and collegial respect. So respecting all the different viewpoints, and being able to count on those things. So it's competence in your area, integrity, and respect for each other. So there's something else, though, for a cross-functional team to make it effective. It does need to have that charter, but it needs to be able to make some decisions that will be accepted and supported by administration. So that means up front, you need to set up some things, like a charter that says, this is the scope of what you're doing. These are the people who are on it. These are the deliverables. And for example, with the Strategic Directions Task Force, that charter went through the Senate and went through College Council. So there was notification, discussion, buy-in. You need that. And you also need to include committees and the whole college. We did that. A task force, a group like this, a cross-functional team, can't work in isolation, right? We don't want any more silos. And you would think with a cross-functional team, that would be anti-silo because they're from different parts of the college. But a cross-functional team, once formed, could become a silo. And you have to work so that that doesn't happen. So some of the things we did on Strategic Directions Task Force was somebody from that group went out to every single standing governance committee and talked about strategic directions and involved people. And for those who weren't on the committee, we had an online survey trying to get people involved, because there is a gap between now I'm on College Council and I'm learning all this information, and she keeps sending us reports about what's going on in College Council, but I'm not sure what it means, or I'm not sure what it means to me. So, so we had a cross-functional team develop this, so we have that example, but then we built on it, because we finished this, yes, we finished this, but then it was, we've got strategic directions and how do we make them real. We've got Renegade 2.0, the new scorecard, and those are two silos. So then over the summer, yes, over the summer, those two teams worked together. We had Patrick Perry come in and help us too. And both teams had a mix of classified faculty administration. And then you put them together and they develop that process. They develop that scorecard that includes or integrates or embeds strategic directions. And then they were tasked, when you get signed up for something, right? Could you do this on opening day? Could you explain this on opening day? And so these two teams that became one team developed that plan, and everybody involved helped present that plan. It was not one person, it was not one voice. It was from different parts of the campus and different job classifications. And I think those different voices only make it stronger. Issues to consider though. The need for professional development. And not entirely, but pretty much, professional development consists of, I guess we have flex day activities, but the authors say, that a lot of people see those as not productive, unless, depending on how you build them. And we have professional development that's just, I want to go to a conference, teaching composition to your colleges, and I may or may, I'll bring that information back, I may or may not share it, I may or may not implement it in my class, but I went and I feel professionally developed at this point. These teams, we need to reconfigure how we do professional development. And part of it, they talk about team facilitators or facilitation. So a team needs that. Somebody who, you need to facilitate an environment of cooperation and help the team explore innovative ideas, work through disagreements, and make decisions. But that it's a sense of a team doing this. And some facilitators, then there's the question, is it an external person, an expert who we bring in and helps us work through this? Or do we go with an internal person? So that's always a decision that something we have to discuss. And these teams need help with assessment processes that are effective and meaningful. And they also need data. So I'm really glad we're hiring an institutional researcher, although the model they used in this book was, and all of these cross-functional teams doing all of this work, each one will have a researcher on it. Like, all right, then. It's good. Yay, we are going to have a researcher, but that's going to be one really busy person.
Great. So we established the importance of investing and engaging in our most precious resources, our human resources, where the vast majority of our fiscal allocations go to. We talked about the importance of collaborating across different areas. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how we invest in our peers and our colleagues. The authors talk about the paradoxical effects of investing more time in meaningful engagement. And that seems almost counterintuitive, that when we ask people to do more and to invest more time above and beyond of what they may have been asked to do, I think in the back of our mind we're thinking, well, where's the threshold of burnout? At which point in time am I asking someone to do something that will actually be counterproductive for that individual and ultimately for the institution? And when the authors start talking about the paradoxical effect of engaging people in meaningful work, that's when I had a bit of a light bulb moment. There was one time, I think it might have been in July or August of this year, I sent a text to President Christian, I think it was after a 16 or 17 hour day. Do you recall that? And I just
Which one?
But I left work, that was probably about 9:30 or 10 o'clock that night, but so much had been done in that day, and I remember feeling so energized by the amazing work that had happened in our area that day. And again, it just seems so counterintuitive because we think, well, the more time you invest, the more likely you are to be burnt out, but that's not the key indicator. The key indicator is, are you investing in things that you feel are making a difference, are actually changing the institution? And probably the best example I can think of is when we have rescue workers who are responding to a crisis situation. And, you know, if there are people whose lives are at stake, or there is a building on fire, or people are somehow need to be rescued and recovered, I really haven't seen footage of rescue workers who are asking for their union break. You know, they're driven by such a sense of urgency and purpose, and they know that what they're doing makes a difference in the lives of people. And that's the motivating factor, I think, of when we instill a sense of meaning and purpose in what we do. And I feel that the college has been increasingly doing a really great job of helping us align the daily work that we do into the broader scope of the college's mission, all of which focus on student retention, success, and then helping them achieve their goals, but doing so with a sense of urgency. I'm going to jump around here a little bit. The authors talk about the importance of having a shared value on success, and that's another thing that I really felt has been a focus of ours, is for each of us to really reflect on how what we do translates to the student experience, both on paper but also in practice. And as I was reading through the chapter, I thought, you know, BC does that or is doing that. You know, it almost felt like a checklist, and also to reinforce what Mark said earlier. Although the book focuses on the development of pathways, I feel as if the principles that are discussed here reach far beyond that.
Manny, can I
Yes.
ask a question? So you were saying you were afraid to be on meetings, Edie, because you weren't quite sure whether people would respect what you said. So can you answer on film?
Thank you,
Whether
Janet.
you
No
feel-
pressure.
Whether you feel as though, you know, you're respected and needed in these cross-functional teams with, as Manny's been talking about, you know, mutual respect.
I am a little more confident that I can say something. I do still have times where I will listen, gather information, go back to my desk, think about it some more, and then I will send out emails suggesting something, like I did to you, the learning communities, or a variation of it that we've tried before. I don't know that that's strictly a classified whatever, or if that's just my makeup. However, yes, I am branching out more, or I would not have been here. I would have declined totally.
Can't get away from my desk, no coverage.
That's right. I could make everyone in the office go home sick so I could stay there. But no, it's improving. But like I said, I had to be nudged, one, out to college council, and then from there out further. Not everyone gets pushed that way. So I think that's part of it. Management has to look at their staff and say, you know, Mary's very interested in the budget. Well, if you're interested, go out and sit on the budget committee once even and see what they're doing or talking about. Or find what Kate said, a work group that's shorter, has a beginning and end date.
Yeah, maybe we need committee field trips so people can check it out.
Yes.
I do think it's important to ask people to consider serving on something. That's how I got started. First I was told by my department chair, but then later I was asked by other people about things I wouldn't have considered. So I think it's important for, if you have people that you're working with or that you supervise, to take a look at their strengths and interests and see where they might be outstanding or contribute. And our committees, if the slots are all filled, are also cross-functional teams, because our committees are set up with administrators, faculty, classified, and students. But it's hard to get classified reps. I mean, we have classified reps on college council, program review, and AIQ. But I don't know if we have classified reps across campus. And I think it's important that we do.
Yeah, I see two parts to that equation. The first is to ensure that our committees, even our ad hoc groups, are structured to clearly indicate that this is a cross-functional team. You by reserving seats at the table for the different groups on campus, different units, disciplines, whatever the case may be. And the other side of that alludes to, or rather refers to what Kate alluded to, and that is the fact that we have very many willing and capable individuals who are ready to help out, who might feel that they're just sitting on the bench, waiting to get in the game, but are just waiting for someone to tap them on the shoulder. And when we invite, when we ask, followed by empowering and so on, I think that there's a very meaningful experience for those individuals who feel like, someone wants me or needs me or believes in me to do this task, and that's usually the first domino that falls in a long series of opportunities for engagement. I'll just open it up to the floor. Questions, comments?
I support what Kate said in terms of asking people in that capacity to ask. But I had a question related to the challenge of engaging more classified and adjunct, but more related to the classified in terms of what can we as a college do to support that, because so often we do get, I can't leave my station. That's Manny.
Well, I'm gonna invite my colleagues to respond to that as well. But I think structuring the experience to reframe the fact that we're moving away from what I'll call a myopic organization, right? Where we have individuals who specialize in one area and one area alone. They come to work and they feel as if their job is to produce so many widgets in a day, and then they punch out. But rather we create this integrated model where, in addition to what you do, we do so in an integrated fashion so that, I'll give you one example with some of my classified staff in my area. I'll ask them to serve on certain committees that are beyond what we do over here, because it brings good representation there, it also brings good information back, but it also accounts for their skill sets as well, because when I feel as if there's someone who's talented in a certain area and feel that they can contribute to a certain group, it only enhances what the institution as a whole does. But when we have adjuncts who, as Mark indicated before, happen to be freeway flyers or might have limited time, we need to be thoughtful and respectful of that. But is there any other way that we can creatively engage them, even without their presence? I'm working on a document over here that might affect our policies. Would you mind reviewing this for me, and would you kind of tear it apart? Could you bring some healthy criticism to it? I think that is one way that we can engage individuals without having to tax their time or whatever the case may be on campus.
But it's like you said, you know your staff, and you went to them and said, would you? That doesn't happen with a lot of classified.
Is there an expectation currently the classified will spend so many hours a week in campus service? Like with faculty, we have 5 hours a week, 5 hours of office hours. It's kind of the expectation, just the culture, and we never think twice about it that faculty are going to be, but we never really realize that classified, I can see, I got to be at my post. Whereas teachers, we're at our post in our classroom for a certain amount of time, and then of course we're going to go do other things on campus and feel like we're not abandoning our post by, so is there anything like that currently for classified?
Not really.
If I could respond to that, in the 43.75 hours a week, I love that number because it's absurd. But that is the number that we get for faculty when we say how many hours a week, because we have a 16-week calendar. Those 5 hours are built into those 43 hours. And I think when we're working off this model that we've had for so long for classified, we say it's 40 hours a week. And your 40 hours are determined by your job description. And so in its very nature, we haven't, because we're using that old model, we haven't said, but there is a place for you to be a viable member of this college community. And all we have to do is to figure out the structure within a department, within an organization, within a whatever. Obviously, Edie figured that out, even though she may not have been warm to the idea to begin with. But within their department, they figured out a way for her to participate. So I think it really is a mind shift, as it said in the book, for us to start thinking in that way and thinking of creating flexibility within a classified member's work schedule so that they can participate.
Well, in the strategic directions group, our classified member was support staff initially, and but became a member of the team. And that was a shift, and it almost wasn't a conscious shift, it just was, we became a team. And I think that was important. The other thing, I'd like to agree with Mark about faculty just stepping up and serving on committees left and right, but I don't think that's as accurate as it is in his department. You know, as an outsider to that department, I would say everybody in communication is on something really involved, but I don't think that's true across campus. And one of the things the authors said was that when you are making these changes, when you are looking at things very differently, get the naysayers involved. Get them involved from the beginning. And there was also, from the faculty perspective, I'm not sure about this. Is it just a drink the Kool-Aid kind of thing again? Is this the latest fad? Get those people involved. And some of them self-selected to keep an eye on things. And honestly, when I was a junior faculty, my department chair said, I want you on matriculation to keep an eye on things. Okay. And I did. But I think we need to get the people who aren't usually involved, and we need to figure out how to do that.
I just wanted to comment that we're coming off a time period when I think that mostly classified staff already was working more than their 40 hours and not getting compensated for it because we were so short-staffed. You know, they eat the sandwich at their desk or whatever it would be. And we're coming out of that situation. We're moving into a different situation. And so it's a perfect time, and everybody should be reminded that this is the time to think about that. Have enough staff so that your staff can participate in a range of things. You know, it is so wonderful that we closed the whole college on opening day in the fall. You know, that's one big change.
I want to read a quote that Kate referred to about naysayers. So the authors write, we wanted the naysayers on the program redesign committee so they could voice their opposition out loud in public. Otherwise, they'd be complaining in private. And you know, there's so much truth in engaging all facets of the campus, not only by function, but by the very nature of their position. And by position, I mean position on an issue, not their position in the institution, because we have to look at things from all perspectives. And I believe that the conflict, when it's managed well, can actually produce immeasurable growth. So we don't want to be an institution that is afraid to address the conflict. When we look at conflict as an opportunity to criticize in a healthy way, to criticize an idea before it launches, that's a good thing. I mean, why do we want to find out about our mistakes and flaws during our maiden voyage, right? I mean, shouldn't we find out about, you know, the fact that the hull has a big hole in it while it's in the dry dock before we put it in the ocean? So I really appreciate how BC does that. Another quote about relational trust states that a strong and deep level of relational trust is important for organizational improvement because it encourages risk-taking and innovation, facilitates problem-solving, and motivates teachers to work more energetically toward collective goals. So the idea of welcoming calculated risk, I think, is a good practice for us, rather than adopting the mentality of, well, we've always kind of done it that way, but rather responding to emerging trends and changes and to say, you know, we might not have all the information, but we know that what we're doing right now isn't working, and we can't continue to keep on doing something that is either antiquated or no longer effective. So we're going to change course, we're going to change direction, we're going to take more risks. And, you know, I think that's what our president has done for us. And we've kind of adopted a model of, well, just make it happen. You know, time is of the essence. It feels as if this is a good investment of our time and our resources. Let's not spend too much time around the table, you know, working up policies and, you know, dreaming these ideas. Let's start implementing these as quickly as possible. And that's what I would consider to be calculated risks.
I like one of the statements they made too, is to watch the affect, the demeanor of people when they leave committee meetings, or when they leave. So I was thinking I was going to watch all of it, and see their body language, and do they look energized and ready to attack the next problem or solve something, or do they look sort of like deflated, just one more meeting, check, it's done, what's my next meeting I have to go to? And that tells you if you're spending the right percentage of time on like problem solving and really dealing with issues, as opposed to maybe the easier, safer procedural stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna watch. But I'm also thinking about, that means you have to create meetings so that when people leave, they're excited and ready to work on something, as opposed to check, oh my God, I've got another meeting, can I?
And we have so much going on our campus right now. In addition, just like the regular committee meetings, I'm preparing for a department meeting this afternoon at 4, and I have my little chair's report, and I'm printing out email after email about another special meeting that's going on campus right now. At least half a dozen in the next week or two. Really cool things going on campus. So we're doing something, right? We're getting people engaged in lots of different initiatives and projects, and so. Only time I get burnt out is one of those mandatory committee meetings where you feel like, well, you're here going through the motions. So, yeah, so how to design those meetings. So.
Well, if it isn't meaningful, then don't meet. That's my own.
And a couple of years ago, when Kate and I were co-chairing the program review committee, we started off each meeting by asking the question, what have you done to help a student succeed since our last meeting? That was our standing question. And it made the connection between what you do in this committee and how it translates to a student's lives, but also it was inspiring to hear other people's stories. Like, wow, I get to partner with someone. I might not have direct contact with a student, but I get to partner with someone who does. And that was energizing.
Before I forget, Edie was mentioning the acronyms. There's a very helpful terms used by community college administrators document on the web that you can find. It's by the California Community College League. It's about a 10-page document of all the acronyms and jargons used. I print that out sporadically and give it to my faculty. But take a look at it. If you haven't seen that, it's worth taking a look at.
We have one in MIH as well, because we first started with mentors that were classified, and they brought in language the faculty had never heard of before in financial aid. So the first thing we had to do was start a vocabulary list.
I think it's called the California Community College Pamphlet of Acronyms, or the CCCPOA.
I think Strobel had it on his website at one time.
Oh, it should be on every committee's website probably too.
It should be.
And new faculty manual.
Yes. Any questions or closing thoughts?
I'd like to go back to Sue's comment and go to page 163, because I think this is a great quote. In a study, it's the middle of the first paragraph, in a study of employees at 35 companies, researchers found that many employees were working long hours and felt exhausted, yet at the same time felt underutilized. Why? Because their skills, ideas, and interests were being ignored by management. And then down a little bit further, it says, let me get it right.
In contrast?
Yeah, the in contrast one. In contrast, when companies recognized the value of their employees' ideas and put them into practice, employees became twice as productive, and far from feeling exhausted, they felt exhilarated. So if we can figure out how to do that, we'll have figured something out.
Well, I was on a hiring committee where the people on the committee were just saying, I just realized I love people in my department. And I was like, what did you do to finally fall in love with the people in your department? We played volleyball against the students. It was the best experience we've ever had.
Which takes more time, it's this paradox, because if you're only getting people on campus together when there's a fire to put out, you're always doing this problem solving, you're never really doing the relational building and never really getting to, so then you have to schedule a meeting just to interact when there's not a fire to put out. It takes time, but relationships take time and effort.
And you can talk about the potlucks.
Oh, yeah. 10 years ago, I had a chair that always had a Monday potluck. And so I'm a new chair, so I reinstituted the departmental potluck. It's actually for the building. So we invite all the fine arts building inhabitants to a Monday potluck and send an email out. And it's amazing how it energizes people. There was a killer paleo meatloaf there today. And I was low energy and dragging. But I think the thing that got me so energized was seeing 5 or 6 people from different departments interacting and getting some nutrition at the same time. So yeah, fun, interesting ways to get people together. You don't feel like you're wasting time at all. Someone else said that not that long ago. Have food at your meetings.
It's an icebreaker.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I encourage you to keep on reading this book and thinking critically about how this reading applies to what we're doing, not only for Guided Pathways, but for everything that we do. I think it's a great investment of our time.
Thank you.